Hello, this is Mrs. Taylor, and I am going to go over number 1 from your homework from last night, just to give you a quick overview of how to use intercepts to graph an equation. So it says Naima has $40 to spend on refreshments for herself and her friends at the movie theater. The equation 5x plus 2y equals 40 describes the number of large popcorns x and small drinks y she can buy. Graph this function and find its intercepts. So if x is the number of large popcorns and y is the number of drinks, then this equation means that it's 5x, which means the popcorn's $5. 2y means the drinks are $2, and then grand total it's $40 because that's how much money she has to spend. And so in order to graph, I'm going to find the intercepts first. And the x-intercept is where y is 0. So the way I do that is I take 0 and I plug it in for y, because that represents the fact that the x-intercept is where y is 0. So in the equation, y would be 0. And then I could solve for x to find out what the x-intercept would be. So 2 times 0 is 0. And then 5x plus 0 is just 5x. And then I would divide by 5. So x would equal 8. And so that's your x-intercept. And I can write it as the coordinate pair 8, 0. And on my graph, that means I can plot the point 8, 0, and already have one point to graph my function. Now, to find the y-intercept, to do the opposite. The y-intercept is where x is 0. So instead of replacing y with 0, I replace x. And now solve for y. So 5 times 0 is 0. And then 0 plus 2y is 2y. And divide by 2, and y would equal 20. So that's my y-intercept. And the coordinates for that would be 0, 20, because remember the y-intercept is where x is 0. So I would plot that on the graph, and then all I have to do in order to finish my graph is just connect those two intercepts. And I will have the equation graphed. So that's how you use intercepts in order to graph. Just to extend this thinking, thinking about the test that's coming up, think about what this x-intercept represents. If the x-intercept is where y is 0, and if x represents the number of large popcorns, then this would be the amount of large popcorns you could purchase if you didn't purchase any drinks. And this would be the number of drinks you could purchase if you didn't buy any popcorns. So if you look at the graph, this x-intercept is where the number of small drinks would be 0. And the y-intercept is where the number of large popcorns would be 0. So in the context of the scenario, that's what intercepts mean. And that's just a quick review of using intercepts to solve linear problems.